Hi, this is Christopher Smith. I'm publisher of the American Cannabis Report, and I'm so fortunate today to have one of the superstars of our industry, Roz McCarthy. She's the founder and CEO of Minorities for Medical Marijuana. The headquarters is in Florida, but they have offices in 37 states now. And she's also founder of a new brand called Black Buddha Cannabis. Roz McCarthy, boy, we've been trying to get in touch with each other for a long time. This is really terrific. I'm so glad that you're here with us today, and thank you so much for joining.
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
This is really going to be great. So I'm really fortunate today to have Roz McCarthy. She's the founder of Minorities for Medical Marijuana and the CEO, and also the founders of Black Buddha Cannabis, right? A new brand that's just launched, I think, within the last month or so, right?
Yeah. Well, we launched it. We actually made the announcement last October at MJ Biz, and it's a really incredible story behind it. So I know we're going to talk about that. And we now have the official date that product will be on shelf is the end of May, and our first state is Ohio. So we'll talk about that, and it's exciting. And mind you, this is just something it's like a little seedling that's been in the ground, and you've been watering it a little bit, but we're not a celebrity brand, we're not an athlete brand, we don't have a lot of big money behind us, but we have great intention, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Fantastic. Well, me too. So, you know what I'd love to start with, though, because what you're known for is having founded Minorities for Medical Marijuana. And as you and I have discussed a couple of times, I am always interested to find how a person like you, with your background and your skill set, how did you end up in the cannabis industry? Of all the things you could be doing, how did you end up here? And then not only did you end up here sort of in the industry, but you are one of the movers and shakers that really gets things done. So that's a personal statement. Some people sort of come and watch, but you come and do. You know, you come and get it done.
I do. Listen, I was raised by a mother. My mom worked for UPS. She was a UPS truck driver for 25 years. And this is back in the day when you didn't see a lot of women in that position, especially Black women. And she was the type of woman, she was like, either you're going to do it or you're not. You're not going to sit on the sidelines. You're not going to complain about it. And so I've been fortunate to have just been made up because I was raised by a mom who just really encouraged me to think big and dream bigger. And that's what I did with M4MMand. Literally on my sofa, seeing all the advertising around the state of Florida was getting ready to put the initiative on the ballot, and lots of conversation about it. Living in Florida, with us being the third populous state in the country, 22 million people live here, and also knowing that healthcare disparities, health equity issues were still persistent in the state, especially in Brown and Black communities. For me, it was almost like, how do you square up the fact that you're going to have a now legalized opportunity to get cannabis? However, Black and Brown communities have been disproportionately targeted and individuals arrested. And now you're going to say it's medicine and you can get your medicine. And I just felt like we needed to have a body, an entity, an organization, a person, someone who was going to fight for that community, and to be able to give information and resources and education that the community can trust. The Black community can be so mistrusting sometimes, and not without merit and without warrant for it to be that way. I felt like if I could create something that supported trust and connection and bridged cannabis to our community. And then I'm like, okay, if I do it in Florida, I got to do it in Pennsylvania. I got to do it in Ohio. So I created this membership-based organization. My background, I was already consulting a membership organization with the African American Chamber of Commerce. I was on the board for the California Black Chamber of Commerce. So I knew the makeup of how that looked. I was a grant writer. I was a consultant for a nonprofit. So I knew that world. And then on my corporate side, I've always been in healthcare. I worked for Bristol Myers Squibb for over 10 years. I've been in the end-of-life care hospice industry, and literally knew about the angst of being able to have access to a physician, access to medicine. So I know all that stuff, right? And I just combined it together. And then during the hard times when I didn't have any money, no one believed in me, everybody thought I was crazy. I felt like I was like drowning in quicksand. I really focused on my kid. My son has sickle cell anemia. And I knew that if I did this, I would create an opportunity that normalizes cannabis as an option for his care. And with that being said, you know, when you're fighting for your kid, when you're fighting for a loved one, that fight becomes even more intense. And, you know, and here I am.
And nothing will stop you when you're fighting for your own child and for other children like him. All of a sudden, it all becomes very easy and very obvious, doesn't it?
It does. It was so obvious. I mean, you know, even through the hard times, when I felt like I wanted to give up, when I had conversations with myself, I'm like, Roz, because I was trying to go find a full-time job because I lost my clients because I was putting all this energy into the nonprofit. And with an impressive resume, I couldn't even find like a customer service gig. And in my spirit, it was almost like, you know, God spoke to me. He said, you can't try to be the head of everything. You got to, this is where I need you to be. And I am in this position, and I sucked it up, and I went through the hard times, and I pushed through. And then the state of Florida legalized, right? And I was talking about minorities for medical marijuana prior to legalization. So they knew that I wasn't like a kind of, you know, kind of jumping on the bandwagon. Like I had been talking about this about 6 months prior to legalization. So then I started getting some traction, and people started saying, hey, you know what, we may need to talk to you some more. And then that's how we ended up just kind of, you know, the doors open, and then resources start kind of coming in, but lots of hard work, lots of grit, lots of fortitude and tenacity during the hard times, staying focused and not giving up.
Yeah, well, congratulations to you for all of that, for persevering, for being so strong. I think it's very interesting what you said about just bridging the gap in people's mentality, in people's experience, people's thinking. It's a giant leap, really, that people have taken from this demonized cannabis, you know, monster kind of, it's bad for you, it's dangerous,
Sure.
to all of a sudden, it's healthcare for you, and you can have it. I mean, it's a giant leap that people have been either able to or asked to take. And it feels like our enemies out there are being asked to take that leap, and they're not willing to. And perhaps what you're saying also is that other people were almost not prepared. And you've been helping with education. You've been helping with providing the sort of the connection with the healthcare community. So,
I mean, and with community in general, I mean, let me tell you something. There's nothing better for a community that has been disproportionately impacted on the issue than seeing someone that comes from the community that's addressing the issue head on. You have more confidence. You have more. You're more in tune to what's going on. You're asking more questions. When people come by my office, and so our office is located right in the heart of a disproportionately impacted area in Orlando. We sit in the heart of Orlando in the Black communities called Washington Shores, Carver Shores. Anybody out there that lives in the area, hey, what's up? We're in a Black business incubator building, right? So we sit right on the first floor. We're right around the corner from the soul food restaurant. We're right across the way from the makeup bar. We got 2 barbershops down the hall from us. And we literally sit there, and people see our sign. And to see that and not to feel like I'm going to be demonized if I ask questions, like you don't understand how powerful that is. So for people that go like, why should I support M4MM? Like we're literally taking, you know, the message of creating access to this plant and normalizing it in a way that makes it so more palatable and so more forgiving and so more not people have felt demonized and have felt like, you know, like if I smoke or if I consume, that made me out to be a really bad person. And now to be able to flip that switch and be able to have access, like we're doing an open house at our building, at our office in April 16th. And the open house is all focused on individuals being able to get information about getting their card. It's a free medical marijuana card clinic. And we're going to be able to prep people on what they need to do and then identify those who need support and paying for it so that the next month when they come, they can actually get their card. And if they need our support to pay for it, we will be paying for those cards. So that's a very specific, intentional, tangible work that we can do. And it started here in Florida, but now we have 27 chapters throughout the country. So we're in California, we're in Colorado, we're in Oklahoma, we're in Missouri, we're in Massachusetts, we're in Mississippi, Louisiana. So we can duplicate some of this work that we're doing at our home base and take it on the road. And that's the really cool thing about what we're doing.
And are you in any states that are not legalized yet? Like, did you say Nebraska or
no?
All legal?
We're not in Nebraska. We're not in. I think South Dakota is done. So Nebraska, Kansas. We're not in Kansas.
Oh, they're still they're still messing around in South Dakota. I just read yesterday they're still messing around with it. Actually,
yeah.
It was approved by the voters, but then the governor took it down, and then now it's
the same thing happened in Mississippi. Remember, a year and a half ago, it was approved by the voters, almost 68%. And then it came back. They found a technicality. They went up to the Supreme Court and they stripped it, right? And they stripped the initiative and and there was a constitutional amendment, which would have made it constitutionally a part of the Mississippi. It was an amendment that would have been a part of the Mississippi Constitution, and they stripped it down. And so they now reinvigorated it and brought it back to life, but not at the same level where it was initially, what the voters voted on. And so that's where you see voters get a little, they get a little discouraged. And it's sometimes a hard pill to swallow when you know exactly what you want. And as a voter, and when it wasn't like a slim margin, it was overwhelming.
67%, 67% in Mississippi. 67%.
Yeah, overwhelming. Right. So we voted on this. However, you still changed it up where we didn't get exactly what we voted on. And so that's where, we have to talk about the realities of policymaking. Listen, I'm 52 years old. And in my lifetime, I've never seen an industry that is creating opportunity, but also has so many different dynamics. And so the dynamics that we're facing is the fact that legalization is happening, but we do have some old guards that are policymakers who still are a little reluctant. And so we have to figure out, how do we make this less of a social issue and more of a, this is my right issue, and also that it's not doing me harm and I should have choice. And then, of course, be able to talk about the social aspects and social justice aspects of it, so that we can then bring along people that may tend not to support social issues, but they are supporting people having a right to choice, right? And so it's a really unique balance when you go to state capitals and you're talking to lawmakers who are, they are not quite sure exactly how to deal with this, and having to try to educate them and say, hey, we can fight for social equity. And if you don't want to address it as social equity, let's address it as this. It still does the same thing. And so you just have to kind of figure out a workaround to get people to come around to do what you want them to do, right?
Yeah, I spoke with our mutual friend, Gretchen Gailey, and she had a very interesting take that once you hear it, it's so obvious, but I'd never heard anyone say it before. I was asking her, because she's very conservative, how is it that a conservative person like you, Gretchen, has ended up in the cannabis industry where it seems so progressive? And she said, actually, cannabis is not a Republican or Democratic issue. It's not. The problem is not there between the sort of the red and the blue. The problem is between age. Older people have heard the propaganda for longer, and it's embedded in them, and they just react reflexively about how cannabis is bad for you and all of that sort of old messaging. And so really it's an age issue. And so then what's our job, you and me, I think, is education, right? It's conversation, education, and breaking down those old myths that they have in their heads, that are stuck in their heads.
And Christopher, guess what? In Florida, the 55 plus community really drives the amount of cannabis that's being sold in our medical program. Really, sure. We have places like the Villages. The Villages is the #1 city or locality in growth for the whole entire country, right? And this area is just prime with seniors who are getting their cards. They are taking control of their life. They know what a vape pen is. They know what an edible is. They understand about, terpenes and about sativa and indica. And so we can change, we can teach, we can educate, but I agree with Gretchen. Gretchen made a great point yesterday when we were on State of the Cannabis News Hour. And her point was, when you write policy or when you're trying to create infrastructure that changes reform, you sometimes having this big bill that has all this stuff in there, you won't get it accomplished. Sometimes you have to parse out and do a little bit at a time, right? And I agree with her, because I think sometimes you have bills that are so inundated with stuff that you give the lawmaker an opportunity to say, no, I'm not voting on it because of this one little piece that may not even be, it's inconsequential, but they can just ride out on that little piece. If we keep bills that are clear, that are transparent, that are as pure as possible with the intention that it is meant to be, it keeps the guessing game out, and it makes people have a very direct response to what we're trying to get accomplished. This is what we want to get accomplished. This is what it says. This is what it's going to do. We need your vote, right? And so I agree with her in respect to, it's a very pragmatic point of how you look at it. But, that's not to say that I'm not, supporting my progressive organizations like, DPA, who did a great job in supporting and getting the MORE Act in and being able to get that voted on, and it got passed. But, it has so much stuff in there that it makes it hard on the Senate side to have senators to vote as well. So, I'm caught between the two, and, that's where we are.
But in some ways we're in, you and I, we're in a somewhat decent position still, because medical cannabis has been approved in Florida, for example, and you are operating in that lane. So, you're set. The federal legalization is nice when it comes. It's going to help in a lot of ways when it comes, but we are allowed to operate. So, so lucky us for the moment anyway.
Well, Florida is still medical. And so you still have a lot of people who are not medical card holders. We would love to see an adult use bill here in Florida. I think it's going to take more time. I think Florida has some other issues that it needs to address. But, the work of what we do from a policy reform perspective and legalization perspective, it's not going to happen overnight. This is not a turnkey. Here we go, we create this opportunity, we have this conversation, now the laws are there. It's not going to happen. It's going to take time, and it's going to mean for us to be patient. We have to be vigilant. We have to be strong, just like steady and not giving up. And that's one thing that I've been trying to learn how to also, just organize my thoughts for the organization. The things that I did in 2017, I'm doing differently now in 2022. However, there's some things in 2017 that I was doing that I need to go back and kind of like revisit, like our interaction during session, state by state, lobby days. Like this year, we didn't do as much as we normally do because we got so many programs that we're running now. There's so much interest in everything that we're doing that some of the things that we did, the bread and butter of who the organization is, like I got to figure out how to get back to that as well. And so that's just that's just dealing with the growth and the maturation of an organization and figuring out how to balance it all, and also resources, getting people in the cannabis community to support M4MM. To spread the wealth. When you're supporting other social justice causes in cannabis, know that this organization is the largest by far that touches community. So we literally take the message, all of the fight that's happening, federal, state, or what have you, and we go straight to the community, to the people that are most impacted, and we have the conversation with them. We have the work with them. We're doing that hands-on. And so with that being said, we need more support. We need more resources so that we can touch more people.
Well, Roz, let me offer my resources and my platform for as much help as I can possibly give you. The one thing that I feel that I'm pretty decent at is storytelling. And I know that one of the things that happens in the community, and must be happening in yours, is that we start to build up stories of success. Things that actually worked, and especially those ones that seem unlikely, and for example, as we were just talking, when you talk about the elderly consuming cannabis, it creates a little bit of a cognitive dissonance in your head. You're kind of go, I can't even picture, grandma ingesting, right? But if you release that old way of thinking, it actually makes perfect sense, right? That grandma does this, because what cannabis, as we know, is good for is inflammation, things like that, right? It's good for neurology and neurologic issues, right? And it's good for the immune system. These are things that grandma needs. Yes. So, right, and chronic pain is an approved condition in virtually every state. I think every state probably that has approved medicinal cannabis. Chronic pain is the thing. And 30% of Americans suffer from chronic pain. So we know that grandma is likely to have aches and pains of this nature or that one, and that there must be success stories out there that will help calm down other people who are nervous or concerned or whatever. If you show those success stories, obviously they have such a big impact.
Yeah, I agree. You got to think about it this way. If you take a pie, you got a whole entire pie, 20% of the pie is kind of focused. They know cannabis, or they've been introduced to it. They know exactly what they want, or they have the freedom. They feel comfortable about going into a dispensary or identifying or finding whatever they need to be able to support their medical issue or, condition or what have you. Then the other 80%, which is a whole entire huge piece of the pie, they're still not connected to this plant, right? Sure. That's the room for the education. I focus on that 80%, right? M4MMand is looking at that 80%. How do we get another 10% that becomes more educated? How do we get another 5% after that? How do we build that pie out where just how it's normal for people to go to a pharmacy to get prescription medicine, that we normalize going to a dispensary or going to a legalized place to get your cannabis to help you support your wellness, right? It's not about just health conditions, it's about wellness. And that was really how I started and, created my brand Black Buddha Cannabis, because of my own personal issue and health issue that was related to wellness and getting better and feeling better. And that's the conversation, that's the opportunity, and that's the exciting part about our industry, that we got a whole big old entire piece of the pie that still does not know the power of this plant.
And they haven't met you yet. So they've got you in the future. So let's that's a great segue. That's a great transition. I really like to hear more about your brand. I've done stories on your brand actually a couple of times on Black Buddha. I mixed your story in, as a matter of fact, with a story about the Olympics, and there was hemp that was used in the bobsled run in China, and your story made it in there too. So I don't know how I did that.
I'm so excited about Black Buddha Cannabis, and it really is a beautiful brand that's environmentally conscious, social impact driven, but it's created by women, by women. It's for women by women. I believe that women are going to be the consumer of the future in cannabis. One thing about it is we are the caretakers. We are the central part of the family. We are the grocery shoppers. We do so much, as well as managing our own lives. And I believe that as more women get more familiar with cannabis as an option for their own healthcare needs, their own moments when you have that anxiety, you have that stress level. I've been a single woman. I've been a wife. I've been a mom to little kids. I've been in corporate America. I know what women go through in trying to juggle it all. I used to I have 2 kids, and when I was married, they were like, "How many kids you got?" I said, "Well, I got 2. And then my husband, that's my 3rd child." And it really, sometimes it feels like he was my 3rd child. And it was a part of what I did as a mom, as a wife, just to keep it all together. But when that happens, though, sometimes you can only pull the rope so tight before that rope can break. You can only pull it so tight before you have a moment where you feel like you can't handle it all. And cannabis, what it does for you is it gives you that, I don't know if you want to call it superpower, but when you have that anxiety moment and you feel like the weight of the world is pressing on your chest, you can't breathe, you can't process, this plant gives you relief. And if relief helps you to take on your day, to be a better person, to be a better woman, to be a better mom, but for my men as well, just to be better, then that's what Black Buddha Cannabis is about. So it is a wellness brand, and it was born from my own trauma, my own healing. Last year in 2021, in June, I was in a car accident, and it was a bad collision, but not so bad that I went to the hospital. But I really just kind of pooed it off like, oh, I was in a car crash, and the next couple of days I was home resting, and then I was off traveling or what have you. Well, there's been studies that talked about with concussions and traumatic brain injuries in women, specifically in women, that the symptoms that you see normally in men sometimes don't happen with women until 10, 14, 20 days after the incident. And that's what happened with me. I was in my office around the 15th day after the accident, and I was on a Zoom call, just like this, having a conversation. Next door to my office, they were doing hammering, and all of a sudden, the walls kept going in. I hear the hammering in. I hear it on the outside. I start hearing it inside my brain, and all of a sudden, I just pass out. And thank goodness I had someone there in the office with me. And that was when I first realized that something was going on. And from there, I went downhill rapidly. And I ended up passing out about another 3 times within a 2-week period of time. I was in the hospital for about 3 days. They did all kind of workup, cardiac, echo. They were trying to figure out what's going on. And they determined that I suffered a concussion, whiplash, and a traumatic brain injury due to that car collision. And I had some really dark times after that. I had a caregiver to come live with me because I couldn't, I was disoriented, I was nauseated, I had a ringing in the ears, I was light sensitive, I was sound sensitive, I could barely walk. It was just bad. And Nicole Buffon, who's a part of M4MMand, but she is a caregiver, she is a lover of the plant, she's an expert at understanding how to integrate the plant in your life. She moved in with me for about 3 to 4 weeks, and she taught me how to just, she brought me back to life. She took all processed foods out of my diet, all that kind of stuff. But what she did was she put me on a regimen. I was utilizing CBD around the clock. And then I was using like a vape pen or a dry flower to help with when you have a concussion, you have this feeling like your brain is swimming. And it feels like you're underwater in a big scuba tank. And it's the weirdest and the most unforgiving feeling that causes anxiety. It causes depression. It causes you to feel out of body. And so the flower really helps to relieve that feeling. And so when I came out of it, as I was going through my healing, I just thought about it. I was like, I would say to myself, I just want to feel better. I just want to do better. I'm like, I got to get better. And just slowly but surely, I started getting better. And I started thinking about, man, if something were to happen to me, I don't have a legacy of, I have M4MMand, and that's my advocacy. But what do I have that I can say, this really represents me from a business perspective to pass along to my children? And then I just really started thinking about all of the meditation and the mantras I was doing throughout my healing. And I combined that process, that premise of mantras and meditation that comes from the Buddhism religion with cannabis, and I created Black Buddha Cannabis. And it really is, it is a female brand, but it's going to be a brand that is going to be welcomed by all. We have 5 states that we are focused on right now: Ohio, Massachusetts, Michigan, Nevada, and California, where we have created operating partnership agreements with operators in those states to bring the brand to fruition. We have a Black formulator. Her name is Crystal Weber. So she's doing our formulations for our edibles. We have intentionally partnered with Black operators who are cultivators in Ohio and Massachusetts that are going to produce the flower for Black Buddha Cannabis. So we are going to create impact that's just not about us making profit. We actually seek out, when we can, social equity operators to partner with us to work together to bring this brand and bring these products to life. And that's a beautiful thing. So the good thing is, when Black Buddha wins, the social equity operator wins. When the community embraces the products that we put on the shelf, we all win together. And I think it's just a great way and a great example of how you can be a brand that's not an athlete. I'm not a celebrity. I'm a mom. I'm an advocate. and I'm a patient. And I
Right.
want to breathe life into this, and I want other people to be able to benefit.
I think another thing that's important about what you're saying too, Roz, is just, I think a lot of people have in their mind, when they think cannabis, they think getting high and sitting on the couch and holding a bong and watching Pineapple Express and being like, dude, oh, totally. But you're saying that it's really completely the opposite experience. You're talking, the difference between wellness and like party on, Garth, is is a huge gap, right?
It's night and day. When you're in a position where you don't know, like when you walk or when you stand up, you're so disoriented. Imagine if, you know, those people that have vertigo, I felt like that times 10. So even for those individuals, being able to utilize this plant to help. And the good thing about it is you don't have to go and smoke. If you're not someone that wants to consume by smoking, there's so many other different delivery systems that are available right now that really can help you. And I had issues with sleeping because my brain wouldn't, like, it's just, like normally I sleep with television or whatever. I couldn't do that. And then even when I was trying to sleep, I had such dark thoughts. And then my doctor said that where the collision happened in the base of my brain, where I was dealing with the pain and the nerve endings and the trauma, it controls your emotions. So I was weepy all the time. I was crying. I was thinking about my death. I was just like, is this the end for me? I mean,
oh my goodness. I'm sorry you suffered so much. This is, and this is all in the last month and a half. I mean, this is,
and the thing about it is I'm still going through it. Like I have literally, I was in a hospital about 3 weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago.
I remember.
Just walked outside, I don't know now if I'm having these anxiety attacks that are associated, but I had I call them episodes. So I had an episode with my TBI and my concussion, and all of a sudden I just got the heavy heart in my chest, and I just felt like I was having a heart attack. So of course went to the hospital. Thank goodness everything came back positive. No, stress test was fine, echo was fine, EKG was fine. So I'm still dealing with this accident, and it hasn't been a year, but I ended up having COVID. We really think that COVID maybe re-triggered some of those symptoms as well. So I'm like, people go, man, sometimes folks have no idea. Like they see, oh, Roz McCarthy, she's powerhouse, but Roz is a human. She's a mom to 2 beautiful children who are now in college. One just graduated from college to going back to pharmacy school.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
My kids are the same age. They're in college. So you and I have kids the same age. And I know thing, right? We are not done when those kids are 18 years old. We're not done.
We are not done. Yes, yes. But they've been so gracious and understanding about mom is going through something. And so I ask the cannabis community, sometimes if I'm not as sharp, sometimes if I'm not as, it feels like, man, maybe Roz isn't, because I challenge myself. Sometimes I feel like I'm just not where I need to be. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And I just know that right now, this is my new normal. Until I get to a full healing, I have to realize there's things that are changing within my head and my body and all connected. And you didn't put in COVID. So I got COVID brain on top of TBI brain. And that's why, So I was just in Ohio this past weekend at the Ohio Marijuana Expo. And I was there for 2 reasons: to connect those different folks to M4MMand, of course, to talk about the work we're doing and get connected to our programs. And then secondarily was there for Black Buddha Cannabis. And I met a lady, she was in an electric wheelchair. And she said, Roz, I passed by you and I saw you talking to people and something about your energy. And I just wanted to come back and I wanted to meet you. And I loved on her and I hugged on her and I gave her like a Black Buddha pen and we talked or whatever. We took a picture together. And that's what people want. They want, we as a cannabis industry have to take time for people. Take some time, go to these conferences. I'm challenging CEO out there, CFO out there, directors out there. Get from behind your desk and just go, attend, just talk to people. They will help to recenter you and remind you of why we do what we do. Yeah. They will help to make sure that you understand that we are at a time in our life that we've never seen, that we have the opportunity to make such a big difference. This lady made such an impact on my life. And I think I made more impact in her mind or her life, but really just talking to her and hearing her say that for you to spend time to take a picture with me, to love on me, to encourage me to stay connected to this industry matters. I mean, what more can you ask for? And so I just want to challenge our industry not to forget the people, because it really is just a great time to, remember why we're doing what we're doing.
Just yesterday, Roz, I did an interview with a young man who is in Ohio. As a matter of fact, I wish I'd known you were going to Ohio. I would have connected you, because this man is a truly exceptional guy. I'm going to guess he's maybe 22, 23, maybe 24, because he's just gotten through college. But he's a patient as well, sickle cell patient, as a matter of fact. He's got a sister. They both have it. And his experience was completely different from hers. After he discovered cannabis, his life has gone like this. His sister is still struggling. She's in and out of the hospital, with terrible pain from her illness. And so but what's exceptional about this guy, he's just a guy. He's just a guy. He's not like from a prominent family. He's not like, gifted, he's not expected to do anything, but this is a guy who had an experience that made his life better, that allowed him to get forward with his life. And now he's turned around like you and sharing the experience with other people. And so I think what he told me was he's perhaps going to take over the local chapter of the sickle cell society, or association, whatever it's called. But he's that kind of mentality. He's that kind of person, right? Where he had a good experience, had a positive experience, and is not going to keep it to himself. He's going to share it with others to try to help others. So I'm going to connect you with this young man, because
please do.
He's quite exceptional.
That is, my son has sickle cell, so I'm a sickle cell mom, right? I know his challenges. I know his sister's challenges. I know what they're going through. Please connect me. We have a community, and for those people that don't understand about sickle cell anemia, it's predominantly around 98% in the African American community. These are children it's a genetic disease that they're born with. They have no choice, nothing out. It's just genetic, right? And there's no cure for it, and it's excruciating pain. And the fact that there's only about 150 to 200,000 people in the country that have it, there hasn't been a lot of resources towards finding a cure, towards even education. And so sickle cell is one of those areas that I want to focus on, that I already focused on it, but from an organization standpoint, and also from an education standpoint, of being able to get those patients who are diagnosed to be able to reach them, teach them about cannabis. My son too is 23. He is a medical marijuana card carrier. He knows exactly what he needs for his pain. He knows what he needs for his acute pain when he has a pain crisis. He has musculoskeletal pain that he goes on that happens, day to day. He knows what to use for that. He's not a junkie. He's not a drug user. A drug abuser. He's not any of that stuff. He is a patient that had a need, and this plant makes a difference. And especially with sickle cell, they sometimes have issues with sleeping at night and things of that nature. And cannabis has made such a big difference in my son's life. So I can only imagine in this young man's life. So yes, please get us in contact. We would love to support him and love on him and give him some resources to get the chapter started there in Ohio, or restarted.
Fantastic. I'm sure. I believe me, I'm absolutely positive and confident that you and he will get along great, and that you will find a good resource in him locally. He's great looking guy. He's absolutely compelling. You're going to love this guy. He's really super.
Wonderful.
What he explained is really similar to what you explained, which was that what his life was like when he was suffering was emergency room opioids. Emergency, because that's the medical go-to when you've got pain. They go, oh, pain, opioids. So then you're addicted, right?
It's morphine, Toradol, Dilaudid, combination of the two, what have you. Lots of ibuprofen that tears up the liver, tears up the stomach,
Absolutely.
And so now my son, he doesn't take any of that stuff. None of that stuff. He uses the plant.
And the body can repair. and the body can deal with this, and it's neuroregenerative so that it helps reestablish those connections. Hopefully that's helping you with your traumatic brain injury.
I am actually taking so I am a card carrier, so I have my vape that I have here. I have my CBD. I'm also taking doing some mushrooms with Marley One, which is with Silo Wellness out of Jamaica. And so I'm doing a lion's mane and a ginkgo biloba. That's a tincture. So I do that as well. So I'm looking at some different things because one, when you have a TBI, it's so debilitating because your brain doesn't function the way that it used to, and you're not as quick. Even on this call, I get anxiety getting on interviews like this because sometimes I have thoughts in my mind of where I want to go with the conversation, but I can't get my words together, right? And today is a good day. So
it seems like it.
Roz, but there's days where it's not so good and my head is swimming or is spinning and I can't get my thoughts together. And I'm like praying that I'm like, okay, Lord, please let me get it together. And so when you're used to functioning at a 10, and you're down to about a 5 some days, 7 at your highest days, and you see that gap in regards to your productivity, your focus, your concentration, your attention, you could easily down spiral into depression, anxiety, a feeling of not being accomplished, a feeling of letting people down, a feeling of why me? I mean, I'm just telling you guys. I'm not telling you what other people say. I'm telling you how I felt.
No, got you.
So I'm dealing with this on a daily basis. Yesterday, I was in the airport, flying back from Ohio, and I had an episode. And so I do a lot of breathing. I was doing meditation in the airport in order to center my brain to say, do not react to this. Do not have this episode where I now get chest pains. So imagine having to deal with this this is your new normal. It could really send you spiraling, but I'm so grateful to people like yourself that give me a lot of grace, and to everybody that's given me grace. I thank you for it. This has been a labor of love. Let me tell you something, Christopher, had it not been for the trauma that I went through, Black Buddha would not be here. It would not be in existence, which means that I may have the potential of connecting my brand to thousands of people that wouldn't get connected to cannabis had it not been through my own personal trauma. And for that, I feel like that is serendipitous in regards to how things happen in life. We don't know what's going to be presented to us. Sometimes we don't know when we're going through something, why we're going through it. It doesn't make sense, but the other side can be a really beautiful thing. And that's what has happened with Black Buddha Cannabis. I have so much joy when I wake up. I work hard. I work 7 days a week. There's not a day that I don't work. But I have so much joy in the work that I do because it's exciting to see this, the interaction in Ohio. We were so well received. I didn't have a booth. I just walked the hallways and met people and talked.
Oh, really?
Folks, yeah. And we have some great t-shirts. So we got to get you a t-shirt. And we got hoodies that really, just announce the brand, and that's it, and so it's exciting.
That's amazing. You're a rock star. And that's all there is to it. You're like,
I don't know about that. I'm just a mom with on a mission. And the purpose of when I started M4MMand was to create, selfishly making sure that my son never felt some kind of way or felt different about being able to tap into cannabis. And I was able to accomplish that. As a matter of fact, he's going to be speaking on campus at the school on 420 about his journey and about how to get your card. And we have to do that with our historically Black colleges and universities. These students are coming from disproportionately impacted areas. Sure. They're coming from families who may have been social equity families or communities or their parent or what have you. We need to have conversation with them. If you need the plant, let's get your card. Let's make sure that you're safe. Let's make sure that you're not going to do anything that's going to jeopardize your education. And so he's going to be speaking on 420. And I'm so excited and proud. And, so it just makes my heart really, really soar.
So the legacy that you talked about earlier is actually happening as we speak.
Happening. Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful? Roz, you're like a miracle, Roz. I got to tell you, you're a miracle 9 times over. I mean, any one of the things that you're doing and have accomplished, any one of those things, most people would say, check the box, I did something, it's pretty great, I'm good, right? They would have said like, I'm, adios, I'm done. But it sounds like to me that you're not stopped at all. And that if something happens tomorrow, it's not something bad that happens, it's an opportunity. That's what I love hearing about you.
The opportunity is, you just never know. Like, when I went to Ohio, it was kind of impromptu. I didn't know what to expect, but like, I'm just a lover of people. I just see the good in people. I just like people, I love to people watch. I love just to sit there and see reactions and see people engaging. And we can get past color lines and different things as well, because at the end of the day, we're people. We bleed alike. We love ourselves. We love our families. We want to feel better. We want to be able to make a contribution. We just got to, just understand one another. And so this industry has given me an opportunity to connect with people, and I'm very, very grateful.
Yes, well, you're an inspiration, Roz, and I'm so glad that you and I struggled through all of the different tries and attempts, all the meetings that we tried to have, and I, I'm so sorry that some of those were because you were suffering from your brain injury from your car accident, but I
you
think
were so gracious, Christopher. So I knew this was going to happen and come hell or high water. You were so gracious. You guys, just thank you so much for your kindness, for your love, your support. You didn't make me feel weird. You didn't make me feel like, okay, well, I'm never going to try to talk to you again. You didn't.
Goodness, I was worried about you. What are you talking about? I know,
but come down to Florida. Trust me. Listen, sometimes people make you feel like, you can't be honest and transparent. And listen, at this point in my life, I'll be 53 this year. I'm just a transparent, open book. When I do something that needs to be fixed, I'll say, listen, that was my bad. Let me fix that or whatever. Right. But when some things are out of your control, and it was just a couple, just things were out of our control, but this has been great, just connecting. And, kudos to your programming that you've put together. And I'm so grateful to be on and being able to connect with your audience.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Roz. I know, and in addition, I know even just from what you've just told me that you've probably got 19 things stacked up on the runway waiting to take you away. So I'll let you go now.
I got to get ready for the next thing at 12 o'clock. But it's just been a pleasure being with you, Christopher. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thanks, Roz. You take care. Wow, what an incredible conversation with Roz McCarthy, the CEO and founder of Minorities for Medical Marijuana, and the CEO and founder also of Black Buddha Cannabis. What an incredible person, an inspiring story. I would like to remind you all to like, share, and subscribe to this show and to the other shows on Pro Cannabis Media. And by the way, I want to give a big shout out to my friends at Pro Cannabis Media. That would be Dan, Isabel, and the legendary Jimmy Young for all the support and help. I really feel fortunate to be able to work here and spread the great stories of the cannabis industry and the cannabis community. So this is Christopher Smith, publisher of the American Cannabis Report, signing off. I'll see you soon.